The issue of racial discrimination is a theme that has been addressed and explored through many stories and fiction. Today, I wanted to look at how One Piece has tackled this subject through the races of fishmen and merfolk. For the purpose of brevity, I'll be referring to both races when I use the term fishmen. In particular, I wanted to look at key individuals that have contributed to this theme, and what the author Oda-sensei might be trying to say. The fishmen are first introduced through Arlong, and through the vicious and formidable pirate, the reader is shown that fishmen are powerful enemies. After all, they can breathe underwater, which is a key advantage in a world that's mostly covered by oceans. The Arlong pirates terrorize Cocoa Village by imposing a heavy tax on them. Arlong himself places the race of fishmen above all other races like humans, and is obsessed with money, using money to torment Nami by saying his crew will leave the island if she gathers 100 million berries, when he has no intention of keeping that promise. And he manipulates her into serving him even after he kills her adoptive mother, Belmare. In a way, he serves as the final antagonist of the East Blue Saga for the Straw Hats, and the moment when the Straw Hat pirates face off against the Arlong pirates is when readers became lifelong fans of One Piece. So, the image of fishmen seems straightforward. They're a powerful race that make dangerous pirates. However, the author later challenges this simple perception through Hachi. Hachi was a member of Arlong's crew, but when he's reintroduced into the story during the Shabandi Archipelago arc, he's gained more sympathy through his cover story with Kami and Papagu. And in comparison to other members of the Arlong pirates, he had more comedic moments. So when the Straw Hats decide to save him from Duval, he soon becomes an ally who helps them navigate the Shabandi Archipelago. Through this exploration, the deeper evil in the One Piece world is revealed through the Tenryubito, or the Celestial Dragons, and the remnant of history's evil. It's revealed that up until 200 years ago, fishmen were classified as fish, or creatures that were lower than humans, essentially denying that they were sentient beings who deserved rights. The slave trade in the archipelago also highly values fishmen and merfolk, resulting in the lingering perception that those races are creatures that are lesser than humans and to be feared. A series of events leads to Kami's capture by slave traders, Hachi getting shot by the celestial dragon Sharlos, and Luffy delivering one of the most satisfying punches in the series to Sharlos. Through the revelation of the history of the fishmen, the actions of Arlong are recontextualized, as he was not just a pirate that wanted to plunder a village. In a way, he and his pirate crew were trying to recreate the dominating authority that they suffered under the Celestial Dragons, and the pain that they endured through racial persecution. Furthermore, Nami states that Arlong Park bore a striking resemblance to the amusement park called Shabandi Park. Here, Hachi reveals the yearning that he and Arlong had for the surface world and to be a part of that world. This is linked to the central phrase that refers to the struggle of fishmen to overcome their racial discrimination and gain equal status to humans, the path towards the sun. This refers to the goal of fishmen to transfer Fishman Island to the surface. Fishman Island itself is located 10,000 meters below sea level and only receives light from the roots of the giant tree called Eve. This goal is the driving motivation behind two of the central characters of this idea of racism, Otohime and Fisher Tiger. Both Otohime and Fisher Tiger desire the same thing, which is for fishmen to be able to live on the surface under the real sun. The difference between the two is how they seek to achieve this goal. Otohime seeks a diplomatic approach with the humans, while Fisher Tiger uses force. I want to focus first on Fisher Tiger before Otohime, for the first half of the flashback is focused on him. After climbing the Red Line and liberating the slaves at Marijoa, Fisher Tiger creates the Fishmen Pirates as a way to liberate slaves further by giving them a new brand of the sun over the hoof of the soaring dragon, which labels someone as a slave of the Tenryubito, whom can do whatever they want to the slaves, as explained through Boa Hancock. The sun symbol was sought as a way to prevent the world government from reclaiming slaves as stolen property. The sun itself is a common symbol in One Piece that is shown through the symbol of the Kuja Pirates, whose captain owes her life to Fisher Tiger, the Thousand Sunny, and most evidently the symbol of the Sun Pirates. Through Fisher Tiger, it's shown how after years of injustice and discrimination, a force will rise up to deal justice, similar to the Revolutionary Army. Fisher Tiger's ideals, however, are made clear through his interactions with Arlong. He explicitly states that the Sun Pirates are not to use guns or kill humans, so that they do not fall down to the level of humans. During a private conversation with Jinbe, though, Fisher Tiger expresses doubts over his ideals against murder and wonders whether he is seen as any different from a violent brute like Arlong to Otohime. Later, when he is ambushed by Marines and is shot, he reveals that his stance is linked to a deeper trauma when he was a slave of the Tenryubito, and the mark of the sun that was meant to provide a way of freeing slaves symbolically was meant to free Fisher Tiger himself as well. Although the hoof of the soaring dragon is gone from his body, beneath the mark of the sun on his chest, in his heart, Fisher Tiger holds a deep hatred and resentment towards humans and is unable to desire true equality with humans due to his hatred. He refuses to receive a blood transfusion using blood that came from a human, and his dying wish is for his crew to not tell the people of Fishman Island the truth behind his death, which is that he refused to receive the blood transfusion. On his deathbed, he reveals his acceptance for Otohime's ideals of peace and mourns the fact that he cannot follow them, entrusting those ideals to the next generation like Koala, whom are not tainted by the hatred that he carries. In a way, Arlong and Hody Jones represent what Fisher Tiger could have become if he had chosen to embrace his hatred. Fisher Tiger lived a tragic life, full of suffering, but chose to use that suffering as his drive to liberate slaves. However, he was unable to seek true peace with humans and died due to his resentment. This displays the true weight of discrimination that can create resentment powerful enough to drive someone to their death. Additionally, the death of Fisher Tiger alludes to a mandatory facet of equity, which is the access to universal rights, such as the right to healthcare. A quick difference between equality and equity is that both seek fairness, but while equality strives to treat everyone the same, regardless of need, equity strives to treat people differently based on their individual needs. Therefore, people that require more needs to be met are given more investment of resources. Moving forward, I'll be using the term equity since that is closer to what the path towards the sun represents. Fisher Tiger's last words are known only to his crew members, King Neptune, and Queen Otohime. When I first read through this flashback, I was impatient with Otohime and was more invested in Fisher Tiger, since I was more interested in the action. However, it is only after the death of Fisher Tiger that I realized how important Otohime is to the theme of racial discrimination and to the race of fishmen. For the fishmen, the path to freedom is an actual vertical path upwards towards the sun, which reflects another universal right for the right of safe shelter. Otohime pleads to the people of Fishman Island to gather signatures in order to make a request to the humans during reverie. This request is for Fishman Island to be relocated to the surface. Queen Otohime does her best to explain that the humans that the fishmen have encountered are only a minority of the human race that consist of criminal pirates and elitists known as the world nobles, shedding light on the fact that the severe lack of knowledge and communication between races have led to mistrust. However, this plea is denied by most residents, and after the death of Fisher Tiger, the number of signatures reduces even further. People also say that it is the humans' fault that their race is discriminated, and it is not the responsibility of fishmen to seek peace. In a drunken rant, Otohime refers to the fact that Fishman Island only exists thanks to Eve providing sunlight on the bottom of the ocean floor, which reflects the innate desire of fishmen to live freely under the sun. Otohime's declaration reveals that unless someone steps up and seeks a conversation with the humans, the burden of their discrimination will be carried on to future generations. One of the most noteworthy chapter titles in One Piece for me is chapter 625, titled Uninherited Will. This is because in the series of One Piece, inherited will is a major theme for many characters. Examples include Dr. Hirlook's speech about how someone only truly dies when he is forgotten, to Nico Robin inheriting the will of Ohara, and most iconically, Roger's will and Ace's will getting inherited by Luffy. This will is most likely referring to the will of D, that is said to be carried by those who carry the initial D for their middle names. However, this chapter explicitly states the existence of an uninherited will, which initially has a negative connotation. However, after reading this chapter once more, I believe it shows that a particular will should not be inherited. In the chapter itself, a Tenryubito named Mjosgard is shipwrecked on Fishman Island. It Its residents want to kill him and keep it silent to take revenge for all the abuse and slavery that their people have suffered. The Tenryubito demands that he be protected due to his status, not understanding the situation. However, Otohime defends the Tenryubito by stating that the actions of the people will affect the minds of their children, allowing the hatred and their will to be carried on to the next generation, which is the true reason behind Otohime's ideals for peace and against violence. This is what I believe uninherited will means. It means the need to prevent hatred against a group to be inherited to the next generation, for that is what prevents true peace from being achieved. Along with Fisher Tiger's wish to not tell people of the reason behind his death, this is another foreshadowing to the existence of Hody Jones. Otohime's determination is rewarded by being saved by the Sea Kings that Shirahoshi subconsciously calls out to, and getting the signature from the Tenryubito and Myo's-guard. This brief hope is what makes Otohime's death even more tragic. After getting shot, even in her last moments, Otohime pleads to her children to not feel hatred towards whoever shot her, holding on to her ideal that hatred must not be passed on to the next generation. Through her efforts, Otohime's will is passed on to her children, and is later shown to have been passed on to Myo's-guard as well. Through this flashback of Otohime and Fisher Tiger, a crucial aspect to restore society from the effects of racism is shown, which is that universal rights have to be upheld. Through Otohime, the rights for free speech and safe shelter are demonstrated through her speeches of peace towards humans to her people, and her desire to bring Fishman Island to the surface without fear of persecution from slavers or the Tenryubito. After Otohime's death, there are opposing wills for and against peace with humans. This leads to a clash of inherited wills caused by the antagonist of the Fishman Island arc, Hody Jones. Hody Jones is not the most compelling or charismatic antagonist in One Piece, but he does embody the fear that Fisher Tiger and Otohime held. Both of them feared what I would call the will of hatred getting passed on. Hody does not recognize the kind humans that are present in the world and only focuses on getting vengeance on all humans and the world that hated them, even if it means overthrowing the Ryukyu Kingdom and tormenting its citizens. One aspect of Hody that I realized is that Hody is the first revolutionary in the story who is an antagonist. So far in One Piece, even before Sabo and Dressrosa, other revolutionaries were either under a misunderstanding, like Koja and Alabasta, or allies of Luffy, such as Dragon, Ivankov, or Inazuma. Koja was willing to converse with Vivi, and the revolutionary army fights against the injustices of the world government for the people. In Hody's case though, his radical ideas to wipe out humans to bring Fishman Island to the surface, even if it means killing the monarchy and forcing fishmen to step on Otohime's photo, makes him an evil revolutionary. The stepping of Otohime's photo reminded me of a movie called Silence, where Catholic missionaries were forced by the Japanese government to step on a picture of Jesus Christ to show that they had renounced their faith. Through this similar act, Hody mentally destroys the ideal and image that Otohime held by forcing the Ryukyu Kingdom's people to turn their backs on Otohime. Hody is also even more vicious than Arlong, who at least showed some care for his fellow crewmates. In Hody's case, Hody is willing to use the Noah to destroy Fishman Island and kill his crewmates in order to claim victory against the Straw Hats. Enraged by this, Prince Fukaboshi, who carries on the inherited will of Otohime, demands to know what grudge Hody holds against the humans that he is willing to let fellow fishermen die, which is something even Arlong would not have condoned. And Hody holds Arlong as a source of inspiration for his ideals. That is when Hody reveals the hollow core of his character. Nothing. The humans have done nothing to him personally or to someone he loves, yet he burns with the desire to kill all humans. Initially, it's easy to dismiss Hody as a villain without a core motive and only a puppet of past hatred. However, I believe this is exactly what Oda-sensei was trying to portray and what Hody was supposed to be to deliver the message of this arc, that the inheritance of hatred cannot lead to true peace or equity. Also, while the basis of racial discrimination is rooted in the fear of the unknown, manifested in other races that look different, at its core, racism itself is irrational. If this warning is not taken seriously, people like Hody Jones and the New Fishman Pirates can be created. The main crew of the new fishermen pirates grew up hearing stories in the fishermen district, glorifying terrorism against humans on the surface, and aspired to take vengeance on humans. The fishermen district is a type of slums on Fisherman Island, and it is where those with the most poverty and nowhere else to go end up gathering. So it serves as a place for hatred to fester. When any compassion is shown to humans, the new fishermen pirates seek to remove it completely, as it contradicts their beliefs. This leads to them burning the homes of fishermen that have donated blood to humans, or trying to kill fishermen like Hachi. Hody himself seeks to overthrow the kingdom so that Hody can become a new king and kill all the human kings during the reverie, ensuring that the will of hatred is imprinted in history forever. However, all these actions are not based on any personal grudges against humans, but it is rather the manifestation of what happens when the grudges of history are allowed to carry on to future generations, to fight their battles and seek vengeance for those that have already passed on. Furthermore, the ideal that the new fishermen pirates holds is a contradiction. They claim to do everything in the name of vengeance against humans, but they end up hurting many fishermen through their actions as well, who are supposed to be who they are fighting for. Even when Hody falls, the officers start attacking their underlings in the fanatic belief that the will of hatred will be carried on to another fisherman in the distant future, just like it was for them. Even the flag of the new fishermen pirates is a contradiction. The flag shows a headless figure, which seems to symbolize the hatred against humans, but then it is clear that there is a slash across the sign, which seems to indicate that the flag contradicts this statement. Therefore, if the original intent was to show the hatred towards humans, this flag fails by showing that they condone such behavior. And if it was meant to show that the new fishermen pirates are against the hatred of fishermen, they end up breaking that as well by being willing to sacrifice fellow fishermen to ensure that their will of hatred is passed on.
There is also a tragic twist to Arlong's and Hody's misguided beliefs that their race was chosen by God to be superior over humans, which is why humans drove them down to the ocean floor. On the other hand, the celestial dragons that are considered to be gods by the One Piece are the very ones that help perpetuate the discrimination against fishermen, as well as the slave trade.
Through Hody, Oda-sensei shows a negative aspect to inherited will, which is that a will based in hatred can cause both physical and mental destruction, and such a will can be created through generations of inherited and accumulated resentment towards a group. The only thing that such a will has to fear is its weakness, that its ideals will fade in time and be replaced by reconciliation. By the end of the arc, Hody has become incredibly aged due to the side effects of the energy steroids. Generally in One Piece, old characters can still be very strong, but in this case, old age is used to depict the outcome of the will of hatred, becoming weak and outdated. Here, Oda-sensei's message could be that the will of hatred is old, unreasonable, and ultimately self-destructive.
The one who discovers the hollow nature of Hody's identity is the son of King Neptune and Queen Otohime, Prince Fukaboshi.
Out of Otohime's 4 children, I believe Prince Fukaboshi contributes the most to this conflict of racism. As an honorable mention, Shirahoshi does reveal that she always knew Hody killed her mother, but did not hate him because of her promise to her mother, directly stating her resolve to not inherit the will of hatred due to the love she holds for her mother.
I want to note at this point the genealogy of fishmen, and how for fishmen and merfolk, the species of fishmen is determined just as much by their ancestors as their parents. This results in even siblings looking very different and being based on different species of fish, which is the case for Fukaboshi and his siblings. This highlights how for their races, the difference in physical appearance is not as a significant issue as much as it is for humans, for differences in appearance is a primary motivation of racial discrimination and the fear of the unknown underlying it.
Upon realizing the will of hatred that Hody embodies, Fukaboshi declares his country's failure to address the dangerous social environment of the fishermen district, which enabled the cultivation of hatred to grow. This inaction is due to the grudge that even he himself holds for humans in some small form. To move forward, Fukaboshi begs Luffy to reset everything on Fisherman Island to 0, which alludes to the fact that as a society, they need to take down the current system and mindset of bias against humans, so that the next generation does not carry on the will of hatred. By doing so, those of the next generation can find the will to understand one another without being bound by the fear of the unknown. as shown through Koala and the children of Fishman Island. This is the hope for his people that Fukaboshi seeks to protect when he speaks to the disheveled and aged Hody.
He asks Hody to be quiet so that the will of hatred does not get passed on to the children on the island, leaving Hody in the shell of a body that he now possesses, unable to exact the hollow revenge that would not have avenged anyone. Finally, I'd like to speak about one of my favorite characters who has interacted with all of the characters mentioned so far, Jinbe, Knight of the Sea. Initially, Jinbe is nonchalant towards Otohime's cause, and ponders about how far-fetched her ideals are. After meeting Koala, though, he wonders if the fear that humans have of fishmen is due to the fear of the unknown, and wonders if communication between races would improve this. Arlong notes as well that Jinbe has changed since leaving Fishman Island. As a tangent, I wonder if Arlong saw a bit of Koala and Nami, due to their similar childhood appearances. Jinbe is present for Fisher Tiger's death, and when Otohime defends the Tenryubito, Jinbe is reminded of Fisher Tiger's last wish to prevent the will of hatred from getting passed on. He fights Ace to prevent him from getting to the human he is indebted to, known as Whitebeard. Jinbe's loyalty is truly shown when he is willing to fight at Marineford to save the human whom he once fought for 5 whole days. He further proves his loyalty by helping Luffy recover from his trauma, which might be a reflection of what he has learned after the death of Fisher Tiger, his captain. Jinbe also has deep insight into the deeper connotations that actions can have, such as recognizing that Luffy cannot beat up Hody outright, due to the implications of a human taking down a fisherman, and how negative that would look to the eyes of the residents of Fishman, whom have suffered under discrimination for years.
Therefore, Jinbe asks Luffy to only attack Hody after Jinbe calls out for his help,
in order to cement Luffy as an image of a human hero to the residents of Fishman Island, in order to overcome the bias they have towards humans.
Jinbe has passed through many different factions in his life. He started out as part of the royal guard of the Ryugu Kingdom, then he joined the crew of the Sun Pirates. Later, he became Mashichibukai under the world government to improve relations with humans. After the death of Queen Otohime, Jinbe becomes deeply devoted to Whitebeard, whom he acknowledges as a human that deeply cared about fishmen, and to whom Fishman Island owes a debt of gratitude by making the island part of the Yonko's territory, preventing rampant slave traders from taking its citizens. When Ace is captured, he refuses to fight against Whitebeard and later defects from the Shichibukai, fighting alongside Luffy in Marineford. After the 2-year time skip, he becomes a part of Big Mom's crew so that Fishman Island can become part of her territory. Despite these many changes in his factions, Jinbe's loyalty has always lied with his people. A core aspect of Jinbe's character that stands out through his history is self-sacrifice.
This ranges from becoming a member of the Shichibukai to going to impel down as punishment for refusing to fight against Whitebeard, to protecting Luffy from Akainu's magma punch, to becoming an underling for Big Mom, to finally giving a blood transfusion to Luffy, despite the law on Fishman Island prohibiting fishermen from donating blood to humans.
I like the scene because it shows Jinbe following the definition of a pirate that Luffy does, which is to carve out your own path and not be bound by the rules of other authorities. On a deeper level, this scene stands out to me because in this arc, the significance of a blood transfusion is shown through Sanji and Fisher Tiger. Sanji losing blood through a nosebleed seems like a gag at first, but turns out to be a serious issue. It is later revealed that there is a law that prevents fishermen from giving blood to humans.
And it is believed that the death of Fisher Tiger was due to
humans refusing to give Fisher Tiger a blood transfusion. However, the flashback later reveals that Fisher Tiger actually refused to accept a blood transfusion that came from a human. This creates a parallel of sorts where Sanji is refused to be given blood, while Fisher Tiger refuses to receive blood from humans. This also shows the inability to receive healthcare due to the racial division between humans and fishermen. Therefore, in order to work towards equity, it is necessary to overcome this boundary and realize that healthcare must be provided to anyone, regardless of race, for both races have the same blood. This is demonstrated most clearly through the narration that goes over how the deep red blood that flows from those who are hurt and those who hurt others, signifying that despite physical differences in appearance, the same blood flows between people. It also shows the past struggles that fishermen have gone through, as the reader sees the blood passing from Jinbe to Luffy, as I looked at this blood transfusion from fishman to human, overcoming racial boundaries for the sake of helping a comrade. I thought that the blood tube represents the potential for a future where understanding has been achieved between humans and fishmen. Fukaboshi himself claims that this is the zero that his mother Otohime wanted, so it shows how the residents of Fisherman Island have broken down their previous society in order to build one that can work towards equity in the path towards the sun. In conclusion, the key message that Oda-sensei is trying to send is that a major threat of racial discrimination lies in the risk of passing on ideas to the next generation, such as hatred and racial bias. Additionally, racism can go both ways, for while humans in power like the Celestial Dragons discriminate against fishmen for their appearance, fishmen also develop their own bias against humans due to believing that all the human race is like the pirates that have plagued Fishman Island. In order to move forward, it is necessary to ensure that basic universal rights, such as healthcare, are attainable to everyone. Beneath the surface-level differences in appearance, the same blood flows within our bodies that we can use to try and better understand one another, without getting bogged down by fear of the unknown. Also, ultimately it is the will to return to a state of zero, or reform ideals towards equity, that will lead to the formation of long-lasting peace that is not burdened by the will of hatred, and will result in a path towards the sun. Thank you for watching.